Welcome back to the Prez Podcast. Hope everybody's doing all right. I'm the Prez, and of course, this is Kian. He's going to be joining us for this week 2 recap and Thursday night preview of the San Francisco Giant game. We're changing the format a little bit. Last week we did a recap, a deep dive into all the games. We're going to try to shorten up the video a little bit, give you 5 games we think were most important for the week that we know most about or wanted to review the most. Then we'll give you some quick hits on the reviews of the other games. So we'll start. First game we're going to talk about is Seattle wins in overtime over the Detroit Lions 37 to 31 on a Tyler Lockett catch at the pylon on the opening drive from Geno Smith. Great game, back and forth. No team really had the big lead. Seattle had a big lead. Biggest lead in the game was like 10 points after the Trey Brown pick 6. But this game was really back and forth. I think everybody thought this game was be closely contested. Last year's game between these two teams was also a very close game. So not surprising, these teams have had some battles. What is surprising is the result. I thought Detroit had enough to win this game. They just made one key turnover. That pick 6 ended up being huge. Mm-hmm. They also had the fumble to start the third quarter, which is a big deal. But the key for me, and I've talked about this Detroit going into the season and why I didn't really have them a pick to win the division, I had the Packers, is I was worried about this defense. Seattle's starting tackles, left tackle, right tackle, both out for this game. They were so worried about it, they signed Jason Peters, a 41-year-old, all pro in his time, but 41-year-old left tackle who hadn't signed with the team because they're worried about their tackle depth. They started 2 backup tackles, and they played great. They played phenomenal. Geno had time to throw the ball, and the secondary for Detroit didn't make enough plays. It gave Seattle a chance to win. The Detroit offense is not going to be a problem. They're going to be able to put up points. But that defense is going to cause them to have to win a lot of shootouts, and I thought it cost them in this game. And it'll be interesting to see if they're able to correct that going forward.
Yeah, I think that this was, of course, a very offensive game. This game could have gone easily to the Lions if they didn't have that pick 6, then maybe they win in overtime, or maybe it doesn't even go to overtime. And I think that, yes, this proves, the Lions, their defense is the problem. Teams, we've seen that teams don't have to have the best defense to, be that great. The Chiefs, they won the Super Bowl. And you could argue that the Philadelphia had a more complete team and a way better defense, but the Chiefs were able to win just because of how great their offense was, and I think that's why the Lions have so much hype and why that they are going to be able to do good. But unfortunately, they just turned over the ball, and in an offensive game, that's if you just turn over just once or even twice, then that could be the end of the game there. Could cost you the game.
Good thing you brought up the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are the next game we're going to talk about. The Kansas City Chiefs hold off Jacksonville 17-9. Now, 17-9, that's not what we were expecting. And we didn't think this was going to be a defensive battle. We thought this was going to be a battle of 2 good offenses. Then you go back and watch the game. See that Kansas City had 3 first-half turnovers, a couple fumbles, and a pick. Jacksonville also had a fumble. And then you look at what Jacksonville did. They had many trips into the red zone. A lot of chances. Trevor Lawrence keep throwing the ball. If it was college, he would have had 4 touchdown passes, but unfortunately it's not because his receivers couldn't get 2 feet down. Just Ridley couldn't get 2 feet down. Kirk couldn't get 2 feet down. Happened multiple times in the red zone. They just couldn't punch it in. Able to move the ball between the 20s. Just too many field goals, not enough chances in the end zone, not enough results in the end zone. And for Kansas City, the turnovers really hindered their offensive production, but if you look at their yardage and the way they would move the ball, this could have been a higher scoring game for them, but the turnovers hurt them. Going forward, I think Jacksonville's offense is going to do fine. They play the Texans this weekend. We'll review that on Friday, or preview that on Friday. But I really feel like that's an issue, for Jacksonville going forward. It's just going to be, is their defense going to be able to hold off a team like Kansas City? They did enough to get those turnovers, but This is one of those games I think we'll look back, like week 10, we'll look back at week 2, and that's an interesting result because these teams' offenses are running more smoothly down later in the season.
Yeah, I think that this shows. I feel that Kansas City's defense looked good in this game, being able to hold off Jacksonville in that red zone.
Mm-hmm.
With a good offense like Jacksonville has, I think that it was the Chiefs' defense. I don't think that it was necessarily Jaguars just not being that good in the red zone. I think it was the Chiefs' defense that made the difference.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, their corners are going to be good. Chris Jones obviously came back, and Karlaftis, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, I always butcher his name, but the other defensive ends. So the pass rush did give pressure on Lawrence too. Next up, a game I wanted to talk about is the 49ers over the Rams, 30-23. This game was very, very close in the first half and through most of the third quarter. 49ers pulled out the win in the fourth quarter, really coming off 2 Stafford picks. By the way, neither of those picks were Stafford's fault. First pick hits the running back right in the hands, tip drill. Second pick, his receiver runs a crossing route deep, loses leverage, and lets the corner undercut him. That's just a bad route. Both of those picks not on Stafford, who is playing phenomenal football. And a lot of people wondered if maybe the Rams, not the Cardinals, would be the worst team in that division. But I also think that maybe we're taking for granted how good Matthew Stafford is. And we forgot just 2 years ago that they won the Super Bowl and he played great in that Super Bowl and led them to that Super Bowl. But last year he was hurt. He played for part of the season. In those games that he did play, he was hurt. He looks healthy. He looks sharp. That offensive line that has been patchwork last year was just letting anybody in. It was looking great, partially because he's getting the ball out so quickly. And then his receivers, without Cooper Kupp, we got to talk about Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. By the way, 2 great receiver names when you're throwing the ball to Puka and Tutu. Great names for receivers, but they're catching everything, and they're all over the field. And he's getting rid of the ball quickly. We thought maybe Skoranek or Higbee would be maybe the highlights of their offense or maybe the running game, but no, Stafford is throwing the ball over the field and was able to go to toe-to-toe what we know to be a really, really good 49ers team. Now, the problem for the Rams is their defense. Purdy missed a couple deep shots. He had a deep shot to Samuel on a skinny post. He had a corner route to Ayuk where Ayuk beat his man completely and he overthrew the ball. A couple overthrows that could have been more touchdowns where they settled for field goals. So this could have been maybe more of a blowout game, and the 49ers are going to look good going forward. But for the Rams, I see them being competitive going forward. And, if their offensive line stays healthy and their receiver stays healthy, who knows if Kupp's able to figure his hamstring out, how good this team could be. It's going to be a very interesting season for the Rams.
Yeah, I think when people were discussing the Rams this season, I think that they forgot about all of the injuries that they had last season and how much that they hindered them, I think. And in this game, they did look good, being able to hold their own in a one-score game against the 49ers, which could possibly be the best team in the entire league.
Right.
But the 49ers were able to win this game. I think that their run game did very good, which is, expected with Christian McCaffrey, but I think that just that consistency, I think that that's why they won.
Good call. Next up, probably the craziest game of the weekend, and that is the Commanders, which says a lot because there's a couple of crazy games. You could talk about the Giants and Cardinals, but we're not going to, just because I don't think those teams are good. But the Commanders beat the Broncos 35-33. Now, this game was crazy for many reasons. One, the Broncos were up 21-3 in the first half. They looked phenomenal. Offense looked great. Russell, again, like the first half against the Raiders, throwing the ball over the field. Protection was good. Offense was moving the ball consistently. And they were just moving the ball down the field while the Commanders couldn't do anything offensively. Then the end of the late second quarter, Russell has a fumble, and the Commanders turn that into a touchdown, and they get right back into the game. And the second half happens. And all of a sudden, Sam Howell turns on. Brian Robinson becomes this great running back. And the Commanders' defensive line decides, you know what, maybe we should play some football. And they start harassing Russell Wilson all second half. It was a tale of two halves, really. And not only that, but then we get a Hail Mary, and Russell gets pressure and doesn't even get it there. He throws it, gets pushed around. I mean, gets tipped up at the 2-yard line and lands in the arms of a Broncos receiver, and he's got a chance to go for 2. Now, we watched this live, and I am a firm believer that Cortland Sutton got interfered with on that play. The corner was early. That's not the reason Denver lost the game. I'm one of those people that doesn't believe one play costs you the game. But when it's the last play, it's really frustrating. And I'm sure Bronco fans are completely dejected to have that Hail Mary caught and then not get the 2-point conversion, especially when you feel like the receiver was hit before the ball got there. And if you watch that play, it's kind of bang, but I really feel like the corner got there early. But the big point is the Commanders are 2-0.
Yeah.
They haven't scored points like this. I don't remember the record for the last time they scored 35 points. So Eric Bieniemy has come in and really revitalized this offense. Somehow is making steps towards making some good throws. The thing you want to see from a young quarterback, is he reading defenses quickly? Is he putting the ball in good places for his receivers? The throw to Terry McLaurin in the third quarter. There was three defenders, but he fitted in the perfect spot for Terry on that post route. It's those throws that I'd like to have. If you're a Commanders fan, you gotta have some hope. Not only they're 2-0 in a division where there's 2 other 2-0 teams with the Eagles and the Cowboys, but this team fought back, and that's great. Now, if you're the Broncos, it's the other side of the coin. You lost. You had 2 games at home to start the season, and you lost by combined 3 points. And Sean Payton didn't go to Denver to mess around. So you got to wonder what's going to happen. He already called Russ out after this game. Russ needs to play better. I don't know if it's all on Russ. I thought he played good in the first half. The offensive, there's some plays it doesn't look like the old Russ, but there's progression. He was playing better than he did play last year. So there is that. But there's some interesting things going on with that team. I think we're going to see a lot of personnel changes going forward with the Broncos and a lot of things, but it feels like these teams are heading in different directions.
Yeah, I think that I like the Commanders team.
Yeah, you were high on them going into the season.
Yeah, I think that I don't think that they're as bad as people were expecting, and I think that Sam Howell, like you said, making steps towards being a good quarterback and leading this offense, and that's the crucial part. Their defensive line is very good, and if their defense can hold up, then it's down to their offense. And they played well, and they were able to come up with a win. And I do agree that I don't think Russell Wilson is just going to be bad just for the rest of the end of his career. I think that he might be able to play okay. I think that he might be able to come back and improve. And with Sean Payton and on the Broncos, I think that Russell Wilson might be able to get back to at least a little bit of his old self.
Okay. Next up, Monday night game. Steelers beat the Browns 26-22. Before I go into analysis, I just want to say that I'm very, very sad for Nick Chubb. He was my favorite running back in the league. To see that injury happen to a very, very professional player that everybody loves. He was my favorite running back to watch, the way he played, the way he ran the football. And to see that happen to him makes me very sad. We're still waiting. I know he's going to have surgery, and then we're going to have maybe a second surgery. If there's a about he's 28 years old. If he's going to be able to come back, it's going to be very difficult for him what happened to his knee. Doctors have been getting better all the time with those kinds of injuries. You're not sure. Remember, there's been other people that have really destroyed a knee like that, but, it's not sure. And if I know anything about Nick Chubb, I know he's going to try, but I hope his quality of life is not affected by that injury. That's how bad it looked. So for Nick Chubb, I hope he gets better, and I'm just devastated for him because I think he's an amazing football player, and it's just really sad to see. But to get back to the football game, Steelers win 26-22. The key being 2 defensive touchdowns, one early. Alex Highsmith creating both, one with the pick 6, and then creating the fumble that TJ Watt scoops in for the touchdown in the fourth quarter. This game went back and forth all day long. Defense is kind of ruling the day. The Browns did have some big plays that let them score some offense. Obviously, the Steelers had their one big play to George Pickens on the 71-yard touchdown pass. But besides that, the Steelers' offense still looks a little anemic. But I do think a big part of that is they've played two very good defenses in the Browns and the 49ers in week 1 and then week 2. Kenny Pickett did look like he was making some better throws in this game, but also some interesting play calling. There was that 3rd and 1 play call where instead of just lining up and running the ball with Najee Harris, they did try to be cute with a read option. And stuff like that. I'm wondering about their play calling and situational. For the Browns, their offensive line is one of the things that they most, feel great about. But the turnovers by Deshaun, the pick, the fumble, his left tackle got beat clean by Highsmith, but ball security, when you step forward, you hold the ball like this, that's on you as a quarterback, especially in the fourth quarter. That's points you can't give up. I feel like he still has a chance to get a little bit better, and I think the Browns will be competitive in any team they play. They have a great roster. So, the injury to Chubb is devastating. I know that Conklin, their right tackle, has been hurt. But other than that, I think the Browns will still be competitive in this division. And I think the Steelers, on the other hand, you have to feel lucky to win this game at home, getting those 2 defensive touchdowns. You never want to count on your defense getting you two touchdowns to win the day. You want your offense to be better. And really, they're going to need their offense to be better if they're going to compete.
Yeah, I think that this looks good for the Steelers. Maybe if they're as a division win against the Cleveland Browns, which are a good team, going in as the favorites, the Browns. But of course, sad for Nick Chubb and that he's gonna be out for the season. But the Steelers, I think that they play against some worse teams or some more average teams. Maybe then they'll be able to improve and show that they can be a better offense, and a better defense, and just better overall. I think that is still possible. I feel like this brought back some energy, brought back some hope from the last game for the Steelers.
Well said. All right, now we're going to do our quick hits, if I can speak correctly. We're going to go through these rest of the games, just give you a quick note, and then we'll give you a preview for tomorrow's game between the 49ers and the Giants. All right, next up, Falcons hold off the Packers 25-24 in a game went back and forth. Falcons just do enough to get to 2-0. Packers drop to 1-1.
Yeah, I think Packers, their run defense has not looked good, and the Falcons, of course, their running game looks great, and I think that's why that they were able to win.
Okay. Next up, Bills demolish the Raiders. Raiders score early, but then just pack it in while the Bills bounce back from that loss with the Jets. Their offense looked great, and Josh Allen made some Josh Allen-type plays. Bills win 30-10.
Yeah, I think this was definitely expected. I don't know if there's much to take from this. Bills are one of the top teams. Didn't look great last game, but of course they're playing against the Raiders, which looked better than expected, but it's still definitely a blowout.
Next up, in a game we could have discussed in our top 5, the Ravens beat the Bengals 27-24. Bengals have to be worried. I know they had a slow start last year, but calf strain, Burrow's not practicing again. What's going on with them? On the other hand, Lamar Jackson had a much better game offensively. It looked like he was complete control of the offense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with these two teams. Two teams headed in different directions.
Yeah, I think that, coming into this, I thought, either of these teams could have won, and the Bengals just didn't come back enough. It was close, but the Ravens, they were able to pull this out.
Next up, in another overtime game, Titans beat the Chargers 27-24. Justin Herbert plays well, but loses. This seems to be a returning story. The Titans did enough to win, and is Brandon Staley going to be the first coach fired?
Maybe. This is not good for the Chargers. The Titans, like you were predicted, they might be better than people were thinking, but this was a close game, and the Chargers, they're a good team. I don't know what's going on.
Next up, Buccaneers beat the Bears 27-17. Look at Baker Mayfield leading a team to a 2-0 start. Don't look at Justin Fields. Hasn't won since October of last year.
Yeah, the Bears' offense is just not good, and I like Baker Mayfield. I hope that he can get something done. I want him to have a good career and end up in a good place.
Nice. Next up, the battle of the rookie quarterbacks unfortunately doesn't have a full story as Anthony Richardson gets a concussion as he hits the back of his head after a second touchdown run. But I feel like C.J. Stroud is playing maybe the best of the rookie quarterbacks and giving them hope, but the Colts win this one 31-20.
Yeah, I also feel like this may have been expected. I mean, maybe the Texans could have pulled this out, but the Colts just have a better overall team.
Next, the Giants come from 3 touchdowns down. They started the season for their first 6 quarters losing 60-0. 60-0. But they come back because the Cardinals don't really want to win and looked like they just packed it in, and the Giants win 31-28.
Yeah, I mean, this I don't know what to say from this. The Giants, I still think that they're going to be bad. I still think the Cardinals are going to be bad, and they're going to want to be bad. So I don't think there's much to take from this.
Next up, Dallas handles the Jets 30-10. Poor Zach Wilson throws 3 picks, and Dallas hasn't really been tested. They're winning by a combined score of 70-10 after they beat both the New York teams. Hopefully they get a test soon.
Yeah, Dallas looks very good. Again, looks like one of the top teams in the league, and I do think that they're better overall. I expected this. I don't know if I thought it was going to be 20 points, but it was.
Next up, Dolphins beat the Patriots 24-17. Tua now 5-0 against Bill Belichick. Crazy to say that stat. And is Mac Jones, is it his fault? Not really. I think that the Dolphins, they were my pick to be the number 1 seed, and they're showing that. They won 2 games on the road to start the season against difficult opponents. Interesting to see if Tua stays upright and healthy throughout the season. For his sake, I hope he does.
Yeah, I think that the Dolphins are very good. It's hard to say this wasn't expected. I think that they just have such a good offense.
Next up, the Saints beat the Panthers 2017. This game was the score's a little misleading. Panthers scored late touchdown late. But Saints defense good, Saints offense bad. Panthers just bad.
Yeah, I thought it was actually going to be more of a win by the Saints, but
right.
I mean, basically 20-10 as you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Panthers, they really need to do some rebuilding.
All right, that's our recap for week 2. Tomorrow night game, when they lay out the schedule for the Thursday games, they're trying to do, all the primetime games in theory are supposed to be good. Sometimes you get duds though. Sometimes they try to put divisional matchups. Sometimes you try to put teams that were both in the playoffs last year, like San Francisco and New York. Little do you know that Saquon Barkley, their best player, is going to roll their ankle, or that the Giants are just going to suck to start the season. So I don't really think this game is going to be close. I think San Francisco has looked really good. They're still healthy. Brock Purdy is getting better. The defense is playing well. The offense is playing well. The Giants, while they came back in the second half, they had to do it against possibly the worst team in the league. And it's a short week. I'm sure they just stayed on the West Coast besides flying back to New York. So they're just getting San Francisco for this game on Thursday. But I am predicting 49ers by 2 touchdowns, maybe 3.
Yeah, I think that the only way that I'm going to look at it is San Francisco or Dallas going to score more points against the Giants? And that's how you show who's a better team, I think.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's how San Francisco's looking at it. They're like, hey, Dallas put a 40 spot on them in New York. What are we going to do? We got to put up 49. Yeah, it's just, The interesting thing, if you remember the Giants game against Dallas, the Giants couldn't block for Daniel Jones for a second. And Dallas's front may not be, maybe a little bit better than San Francisco's, but trust me, San Francisco's going to get after Daniel Jones. It's going to be a long day. Long day. All right, so that's our episode. That's our recap. I was just remembering that we're busy on Friday, so we'll probably have to record on Saturday to do our preview for Sunday. So we'll try to do that Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon and try to get that posted. We have a busy Friday, so we'll do the preview episode on Saturday for week 3 for the rest of the games. As always, have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Take care.